I definitely don't know everything about Alaska, but in the time that I've been here, living in Valdez, Anchorage, and the interior, as well as visiting over 50 communities, towns, cities, and landmarks, I've learned a lot from my experiences, what I've seen, what I've been able to do, and what I've done. And something that I've noticed while making my videos is that the people who leave comments that are making Alaska seem like an extremely difficult place to live because there's no jobs, and there's this, and there's no that, and you can't survive here. Whether they're Alaskans themselves or people who have never been to Alaska, there's a lot of exaggeration and misleading information that is purposely spread with an agenda that's very difficult to understand. I have found that Alaskans are extremely friendly and helpful people. But just like any place in the world, there are those who exaggerate or mislead other people on purpose for reasons that's hard to understand. Maybe some people do it because they personally don't like people from outside of Alaska to move here. There are a small handful of Alaskans who think everyone else is evil. Maybe they're like this because they want to feel like they're special for living here, and if too many people were to come to Alaska, then Alaska would no longer be a special place to live. Maybe they just enjoy making other people believe that life is a lot more difficult here because then others will see them as the tough guy or tough girl that they want to be envisioned as. Maybe they do it because they want to appear like they know about something that they have no experience in, because they never lived in the remote areas themselves. Or maybe they do it because they're too lazy, or don't have the time, or don't want to save a little money to be able to do it themselves. So they're jealous that someone else gets to do what they wish they could. I'll be perfectly honest with you. You don't have to be tough or hard to live in a remote community in Alaska. I know this because I'm not that tough, hard guy, and I'm doing perfectly fine here. Of course, we're not talking about living in the bush that you can only reach by a small private plane or a small boat. Those people have hard lives, and people like myself would never manage that kind of lifestyle. Most people couldn't. But I do live remote in a small community, and other than a little bit of inconvenience that you have to accept and get used to, which you will if you really want to live here, it's not that bad. I'll give you two examples of what I find to be extremely exaggerated in YouTube videos and in comment sections of those videos about Alaska. The first thing would be the mosquitoes are huge and they're all over the place. This is complete nonsense. It depends entirely on where you live, and even if you live in areas that have more mosquitoes, it's not like the mosquitoes are that bad 24 hours a day throughout the entire summer. There are good days and there are bad days with mosquitoes. And there's definitely some campgrounds that have more mosquitoes than other campgrounds on some weekends or on random days. So, unless you're living in a swampy area or next to a river, I wouldn't believe the hype about how the mosquitoes are monsters in Alaska many people portray them to be. And as far as their size goes, I personally have not noticed much of a difference in the size of mosquitoes in Alaska to those in Virginia or New Jersey or in Europe. I'm not saying there's no big mosquitoes in Alaska, but just because someone went on vacation to a place that had larger mosquitoes and a larger quantity of mosquitoes on that particular day doesn't mean most of the places in Alaska are like that. The second thing people seem to like to say is that you need a lot of money and it's hard to find jobs in Alaska. My reply to that would be nonsense and maybe or maybe not. You don't need a lot of money to move to Alaska. That's the nonsense part. But you should have anywhere from 3 to 6 months of rent and food saved once you get here, depending on whether you are moving to a big city or a small town, just like anywhere else you're moving to. Regarding jobs, Assuming that you don't work remotely or you don't have a special trade that you do, you're going to find a job in Alaska as long as you're not picky and you don't think you're too good for certain jobs. If we speak about the larger cities like Anchorage, you can get a job within 24 hours at places like Dairy Queen, McDonald's, Taco Bell, as well as a host of other similar jobs. And yes, you can survive on those paychecks as long as you manage your money wisely. There's also lots of other jobs I saw while in Anchorage, from veterinarian receptionist, hotels, restaurants, Walmart, grocery stores, convenience stores, gas stations, and many more. And I was not looking for jobs when I was there. I saw signs and I met people who just got jobs at these types of places. If you talk about a smaller town like Valdez, the 8 months that I was there, I saw jobs at the bank, the grocery store, the gas station, the liquor store, cleaning companies, cleaners for the hospital, as well as nurses. Again, in Valdez, I was not actively looking for jobs, but I knew at least one person who got a job in most of those places while I was there, and those places were still hiring afterwards. One has to understand that in the interior, there are less businesses here, and finding year round jobs is not as easy as an Anchorage or a town with 4,000 people like Valdez. When I first arrived in the interior, I lived about 15 miles outside of Healy, about 45 miles from Nenana, and roughly 100 miles away from Fairbanks. My only options for work would be in Healy, unless I want to drive at least 45 miles away to get to work. In the first 2 months I was in Healy, I saw year round jobs at the grocery store, the gas station, and a second gas station. There were also some jobs with requirements, like a CDL license. But for someone who is not picky, jobs do become available even in the remote parts of the interior if you live near a small town or several small businesses. So the next time you see those comments that say things like you need a lot of money, or there's no jobs in Alaska, or the mosquitoes are the size of unicorns, or the next time you watch the Alaskan videos that make certain things seem near impossible to accomplish, don't let those things turn you off if you really want to move to Alaska. Come here, pick an area you would like to live in that has the stores or businesses that you would like to live close by. Rent a place for a few months instead of purchasing a property right away, and see for yourself what is possible for you to do and what is not possible for you to do in that area. And don't let other people you don't know scare you off with their exaggerations and lies.